Hey, everybody. Jason Bermas here. And as of Friday, the internet is ablaze with the Epstein files. Now, I want to make it really clear that there is no way humanly possible, even if I had access, which in my opinion, I don't. The DOJ's handling of this is beyond absurd and almost criminal, by the way. Um, if you haven't noticed, just to get the files in the first place. However, what I want people to understand and what I don't think a lot of people get is that you have the clickbait headlines, you have the stuff that has been disproven over and over and over and over again. And what do I mean by that? So, first and foremost, not every single allegation out there that you have heard is true. Okay. And especially when we have these first drops and people were going to this like ritualistic boat incident. All right. And God love you for it. I'm not saying you shouldn't look at those things because in the past, um, there has been a multitude of evidence that ritualistic SRA behavior is real, 100%. But when I first saw the story about the yacht and the sacrifice, I said, that doesn't look right. And I looked at the date on when it was alleged, and it was everything during this 2019 period when you had the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. You obviously had the events surrounding Epstein's arrest and the preparations for trial with the SDNY, all those things. All right. And there's a bunch more of that I'm seeing. And those are the things that people are gravitating towards. Now, there are other things that are real, okay, in the regards of, I would say you could call the spiritual aspects. And what do I mean by that? Epstein's bank account, ball, that's real, okay? These people are extremely bizarre, no doubt about it. We're going to talk about the transgender slash transhuman movement, real, real, and more than ever. And by the way, we have real revelations about how finance, business, backdoor deals work in the geopolitical arena. Okay. We have, and we'll show you this. I may do a full watch along. I've not yet watched it. 2 hours out of the supposed 13 hours plus interviews with Bannon and Epstein. That's out. That's real. All right. We have real insight to the relationship of Epstein and Ehud Barak. And there were so many people out there prior to this release. I see some kind of retractions that broke out their jump to conclusions, Matt, not really having studied the case. And, Epstein was dumb and he was a dupe. No, he's a very smart operative, very intelligent guy. And just to run an operation of this scope, you'd have to understand that. He wasn't dupe to dupe to dupe. Everybody kind of took this Weinstein quote out of context and one account that he didn't seem exceptional on certain things. I mean, as far as finance goes, basic math, understanding how the world works, it's who you know, not necessarily what you know. And this Ehud Barak conversation really points that out. Epstein's very, very intelligent. Okay. Um, there are pizza related emails. So maybe we won't get into the spiritual so much, but I also see people talking about torture videos, the discussion of them. I'll just say this, and we'll get into it in a moment. And I'm actually going to ask people's help on finding the Epstein files outside of the DOJ for what they've done, which again I think is like criminal, in my opinion, to make it hard for independent journalists to really take a look at this stuff. I was able to get the 11th data set dump, and there were only a few videos in there, but one of the videos is like this video out in the Middle East where they're going to show like executions, beheadings, hands being cut off. And Todd Blanche came out and said they had to redact certain aspects of some of these videos that were showing torture and murder. I would assume that's what that is. It's not the fantastical, that some of these people um, that were in association with Epstein were actually filmed torturing and murdering people. That has yet to be seen or proven. However, as I'm going to show you some other emails, there's definitely some really, really disturbing stuff. And look, stuff that's opened my mind a bit and maybe contrary to some of the things that I thought out of the gates regarding Epstein and the second suicide attempt, where Epstein killed himself. So, thumbs it up, subscribe, share. We're going to show you a bunch of stuff you probably haven't seen anywhere else. Certainly not the stuff being hyped up in the mainstream. I'm just going to say that I've listened to some of the alternative pundits and seen some of the postings, and it's like super duper sensationalist amateur hour over there. It's Johnny nonsense. It's not important. It's obfuscation. And instead, we're going to show you some of the, and by the way, this is 3 million plus pages. Okay. So before we get going, need your support. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me. Share this with others. Go check out all the documentary films. I want to thank Anna. Want to thank DS for Real 2176, Runny Logs, Dr. Chip Abramson for chipping in, Marigold Resources. They support the broadcast. They also broker deals of the purchases and sales of businesses. Go check them out. And then, of course, the River City Reader, rcreader.com, a truly independent media operation. You want to see a lot of the raw files that we're going to be going over. I'm posting them here. They're over on the X. As crappy as a platform as that is, we use what we have and we take what we can get. Let's get into it. So I posted this on Friday when the files dropped, and I was there within the first hour. Okay, I need that to be really clear. In there in the first hour, I said, anyone else find it odd and annoying that 2 large troves of the Epstein files do not have a download all in zip option? And then I gave you a link. Well, let's just look at it. If you noticed, I just did the screenshot, but all of them except for 9 and 10 right here, and they had just released 9, 10, and 11, have the download all files option. Okay? Within like 20 minutes of that, they took down 11. And like and thank you, Edwin Collins, pointed out, hey, by the way, they actively took down the ability to look at these files, to download the files. So now you have to go through literally hundreds of thousands of individual files on their website. But wait, it gets worse. First of all, there's a 12th data set, which is much smaller. I was able to get that. They took down all the download alls. All of them. Now, they took them all down. So, first and foremost, anybody that knows of a mirror site, please DM me. I have open DMs on X. I will have to jump through hoops to go and find it, but please try. Data set 10 and 9. I need data sets 10 and 9. I've got all the other data sets. I need 10 and 9. Okay. But let's just go over some of the revelations. The real ones. The ones that matter. Really haven't seen anyone talking about this. Not loving I even have to put this on screen. What's interesting about this email, and by the way, it's linked right here, and it'll go right into it. It totally and completely obfuscated who it was from and who it was to. We just know it's a March Uh, March 12th, 2012 email. Do I have to say anything about this? See what I'm saying right here? So, yo, guy's a bigot or is around bigots. Uh, and there's no reason for this to be censored up top at all. Zero. We should absolutely know who this communication is from. But, you know, identity politics gets in the way. Okay. So I thought that was odd. Plenty of evidence that the Musker do here not only was in contact with Epstein. We've reported on it for years. There's emails in there where he's supposedly Epstein's supposedly having dinner with Musk, Zuckerberg, and Bezos all together. See, that's what we should be paying attention to, right? I get it. You know, I'm reporting on Bill Gates' wife and how he has explaining to do now that it's been revealed he may have caught an STD from a Russian bridge player. But we've been talking about the Russian bridge player for a while, although of age, extremely young, of course. So Musk is out there actually deflecting, like acting like a hero. Like, I knew that, Reid Hoffman was in the files, blah, 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 because I was in the files. I mean, if you really look at it, and I people are in my X, they're like, how dare you? Go read the actual email exchanges between Elon. It seems like he wants to go to the island. He desperately wants that invite. Seems pretty buddy with him. Point that out. Again, talking about foreign and domestic policy. And we've talked about Iran-Contra. We've talked about the Israeli aspects. Yes, the blackmail aspect is a real aspect. But like, in the Bannon interview, the 2 hour, we're talking trilateral commissioning, fractional reserve banking, global vaccination programs. In fact, the pandemic emails, that's another one. This is a real trove. This shows you how the world works. Okay. So here, you have a email between an Emirati billionaire about the Israeli operation in Dubai, days after Hamas leader's assassination. It's in 2010. So, once again, these emails are out there. It's right here. Sultan bin Salman, right here. Israeli operation done. I will call you around 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay, thanks. Great. Now, we're not going to play this because it's Ben's, and I need access. I don't think I have access to this file currently. I don't know where it is. But this is a recording, where speaking of Israel, of Epstein and Ehud Barak, where Epstein is explaining to Ehud Barak that he needs to make a list of people that owe him favors from the last 40 years of his service within the government so he can take some cushy private job on a board somewhere doing nothing. Okay? One of the boards that he suggests, one of the companies, he starts talking about Palantir back in 2013. A lot of people talk about Palantir now. Now, I'll tell you what, back in 2013, I don't even know that I was discussing Palantir by name yet, but I was discussing Peter Thiel. I was discussing him with Facebook and his work with PayPal. Okay? I do have him featured because of his Bilderberg status in Shade the Motion Picture. So this is an actual conversation, okay? And Benz talks over it a bit, and all this on my X. So please go over there as well. But by the way, can we get the thumbs up here? Can we get over 100 thumbs? Help it out here, please. And the super chats are here if you want to chime in. I will go to you if you got something to say on the matter. This lays it down. A relationship of people that owe you things, who you know. Epstein laying it down. And by the way, one of the emails that's out there that's circulating that I could probably do a whole show on. Michael Wolff, who wrote this book on Trump and was clearly working with Epstein to try to take Trump down. One of the emails, Epstein says Trump is like the most evil person he's ever met in his life. And he's met some really evil ones, that Jeffrey Epstein. And he's got these delusions of being the only one that takes him down. But they have this conversation where it's a really short email, but it's a war between Jews and non-Jews, and the Jews are winning. And I know how some people are going to use that mindset, but that mindset is certain. That mindset's certainly here. There are people that truly believe in these like supremacy narratives. So I'm reporting on this with caution, but it does seem somewhat true. Now, this was the big post, okay, that somebody from MCC anonymously posted on 4chan that they may have switched Epstein out the night before. All right. What's interesting is it does seem like this post was taken seriously. It doesn't say it was taken seriously. These are Epstein documents now. They believe that the guy that made this post is Roberto Grijalva. Okay. And he was someone that actually worked there. Okay. Just saying. And he passed information from the special housing unit. Now, I still think Epstein's dead. I don't think this was a switch out or anything like that. Not sure what was happening there, but I'm open to it. What I don't understand, and I'm not going to show it here, but here are 2 links, is there are plenty of people that say, they always go to the photographs and the ears and this and that. They don't go to the autopsy photos. Okay. 6 years ago, there's 2 videos. One they republished like 3 months ago, but one from 6 years ago. There's 2 separate ones from 60 Minutes of the autopsy of a very blue-faced Jeffrey Epstein with a very real marking around his neck. Okay? It's all very real. In fact, one of the very real aspects of that is that he also seems to have an injection mark on his arm. Okay? So again, if you want to see the autopsy stuff of Epstein, 60 Minutes published it years ago. That's real. Okay. But apparently, this post may have really been from someone that worked at MCC. It's in the Epstein files. They took it seriously. They seem to have named him. Epstein. Plenty in here about working with the transhumanists as well. But also, as I have stated many, many times, the transgender movement is a stepping stone for the transhuman movement. Okay. And if you subject matter trans, Dr. Robert Trivers talking to Epstein about this. All right. Now, there's plenty of stuff in this email that is wild and repugnant, in my opinion. Okay. I mean, do I really want to read some of this? The end is the hardest, but let's try to keep it as PG as we can, because we're talking ultra X-rated. The first is attractive. And this is the first kind. Male to female is 4 times more frequent than female to male. This is 2018. The first is attractive. He is a woman with a rooster. So that if your fantasy is to suck a man's hey-ho, otherwise you are completely heterosexual. It would be much nicer if the rest of the organism is female. Then you get the best of both worlds. So many transsexual women are very attractive and easily make money, which in turn they assert promotes their prostitution since they have to pay hefty fees for injections every week. I never tell you that. But they are sexually happy once you have reached manhood. Even castration does not prevent the sensation of, it says organism. I mean, maybe that's a typo. Contrast the poor female to male versions. They are unhappy and lonely. They are men with mum-pums, the worst of both worlds. If you like smelly masculine men, you want that hard rooster that comes with the shell. I mean, guys, you think it can't get worse. It gets worse. You don't want one of nature's more complex and variable structures, the pum-pum, that is acquired taste, and not with a man, okay? There are hundreds of female trans videos and websites. I have never seen a male one. By the way, we are now pushing the intervention earlier. So you notice your 3-year-old son has trans tendencies. So now you intervene with hormones. I would be frightened to do that, but who knows? Psychopaths. You know, who knows what's going on here? Doesn't look good. You could tell why the royal family really wanted to distance themselves, but tell you what, there's some Rothschild stuff in here. Tough to distance. Okay, we already went over that one. Cernovich, smart guy, has some real actual stuff on here that's a big deal. Lord Mandelson gave Jeffrey Epstein advance notice of a $500 billion bailout to save the euro. He messaged Epstein about the bailout on the evening of May 9th, 2010. This is the right-hand man and close associate of Keir Starmer. Okay? You get it? See how this works? Talk about Peter Mandelson. This is like the real insider stuff. This is the real stuff that we should be, looking at. Okay, and like I said, Bannon's sitting on supposedly 13 hours of this. We got 2. We got just under 2 hours. Probably going to play about 3 minutes of it here in a moment. Okay. This email. Okay. Peter Thiel. Look at that. Oh, okay. Like, these guys have a relationship. And as you may know, Peter, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. It's 2016. Remember, I Epstein, Rothschilds, I guess some kind of war between Jews and non-Jews. The proof is in the pudding. This is how they speak. Now, here we go again. We're going to go to them. All right. I wanted to let you know the crew really appreciated the pizza today. Thank you for letting us do that. Roy and Stephanie Hodges. That's Roy Hodges. Okay. This is better than a Chinese cookie. See attached. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand. Okay. This is to Jeffrey Epstein, but they don't tell us who this one's from. Vero Equity Research. Pizza and grape soda. You mean radiating soft glow with the look of bliss and excitement? Yeah, that's the pizza. And then says she looks pregnant. I mean, that one, it's quote unquote the pizza monster. This could be just be talking about somebody who ate pizza, but and you know, I don't know. I don't know, but boy, they're gonna get there. And this is the one that talks about this torture video. It says, I watched them all. Please don't send more. It's 2011. They could just be the Middle Eastern torture stuff. It could, but I don't know. I know imaginations are going to run wild. Now here's a biggins. Here's a Here's a Bobby Biggins. Here's one people should be worried about. People should be delving into. I don't know where they are. I see a lot of fabric right here. Looks like some orange fabric, some blue, some black. Looks like some fabric. Epstein's having a good time. We got a woman here. It could be innocent enough, could be the fashion world. I don't know. I do know that there are just a ton of boxes labeled Central Intelligence Agency or CIA. Again, could be nothing. Could be nothing. But it says CIA. Maybe there's some, like, CIA crates in the fashion industry I'm just not aware of. Want to point out that Brett Ratner, who recently directed Melania, I was unaware of that. I was actually hanging out with my boy Rugged Man. Shout out to RA. Shout out to Atmosphere. Shout out to an awesome time over at the Salt Shed. Cool Keith, Sage Francis, just an awesome show. But he let me know that Melania was directed by Brett Ratner, who is in the Epstein files and pictures. And in this, he claims, there's this one picture, but I thought I already had another picture of Brett Ratner with somebody else. Maybe I'm wrong, that were in the Epstein files that wasn't with Epstein himself. And he's saying that's his fiance and he only met him once and it was in an event. I don't know. But just to reiterate, Epstein and Peter Thiel having a relationship. Here they are in 2016 talking about returning to tribalism to quote unquote counter globalization and have new alliances. Okay. You and I both agreed zero interest rates were too high. And I said it in your office. Finding things on their way to collapse was easier than finding the next bargain. Just again, they're talking about Brexit here. Thiel had a relationship with this guy. Musk had a relationship with this guy long after they knew who and what he was. Bannon had a relationship with this guy. Sumo Dog is not in the files. Thank you for that super chat. There is no Sumo Dog. Correct. Let's do it. Again, to reiterate that Epstein was not a dumb guy. Here he is talking about fractional reserve banking. We're going to do the full 2-hour watch along. I'm just not sure when yet because I'm going to have to buckle in for that one. Okay. But here's a couple segments from Epstein and Steve Bannon's conversation together.
Fundamental part of money, which is called fractionalized banking. And fractionalized banking is something that finance people understand, and the people on the street, and when I say people on the street, that's where I was when I started on Wall Street, would find it impossible to believe. Impossible. Why? Bannon Bank, I give you $1, just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much could you lend out to your friends? And your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father who worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. If the public understood that the bank really doesn't have their money at any one time, it's one of the things during the Depression, there were runs on the bank. The reason the banks don't keep much money in the actual bank is they assume that not everyone's going to want their money on the same day. So it's not really the fear of inflation. The fear is a run on the bank. Everybody wants to take out something that doesn't really exist.
Huh. I know a lot of people didn't have Jeffrey Epstein talking about fractional reserve banking on their mind when they were thinking about the Epstein files. But once again, I've been talking about these tapes with Bannon for years. He's had them on. I mean, Epstein's been dead for 6+ years. He's been sitting on these bad boys for a long, long time. All right. Now, we're probably going to do the full watch along, but here, Steve asks Epstein if he's the devil, and Epstein seems to smile a bit, talk about mirrors, and then also have some pretty interesting things to say.
What are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
What's tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm
The lowest?
I'm the lowest. Your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is somebody knows.
Smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Satan is at the number 1 or 2 archangel, and the reason he goes to hell and leads the rebellion is because he can't be the top guy. And his thing is, I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
I saw that in a movie.
I wish I'd found a better clip, because I watched. You know what? Let's see if I can find. We'll do it live. We'll go over here. He talks about basically the African vaccination program he was a part of. So, Epstein, devil, Bannon, Daily Mail is where I saw it. There it is. I think so. Tier 1. Yeah, man, I hope let's see what we got.
What are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself? I read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
And the reason he goes to hell and leads the rebellion.
Man, I really need to find this other, because basically he says, even if my money is, from evil things, devil himself, criminal admission. This is 2 hours. Come on. We're just going to have to do the whole 2 hours. That's it. Okay, that's it. So look, we're going to wrap this one up. Please watch the documentary films, guys. Please consider supporting the broadcast. Again, I don't know who you're watching or who you're listening to on this issue, but how much of the stuff that I just showed you firsthand is really out there? And how many people are just trying to sensationalize everything? No, I want to show you how the world works. $5, $10, $15, big donors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Would not be able to do it without you. Please consider supporting the broadcast with the other links down below as well. And as always, especially with this story, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys.